Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Best Year Ever, a goal-setting workshop, Ice Pastique, February edition, 2015. Now, you don't have to watch the January edition of Best Year Ever to get acquainted with what's going on here, because I'm going to repeat a lot of what we did last time, summarize it, bring up some new stuff. And as the months go on, I'm going to bring up some new concepts, new ideas, and right now we have a light live audience, so I'm mostly going to be doing this for the people on YouTube, so you can pause this, go back, etc., etc. And let's see, I don't have some of my infographics loaded up, but I can do that as I go on, so let's keep this fast, concise. This is a goal-setting workshop, and chances are, if you're watching this video, chances are you probably want more out of life, you want to get more done, there's probably some goal that you really like to accomplish, but you don't exactly know how to get it. But as my old classic joke goes, if you don't feel motivated to follow through on the things that are really important to you, but you somehow find time to play video games or goof around, then there you go. Your priorities are all messed up. So, let's start with how exactly does a goal work? Simply put, that's where you want to go in life, and you need to head in that direction. That's kind of ridiculously simple, kind of stupid, but let me explain in further detail, as you can tell by the size of this video on YouTube. It all comes down to know the goal, know what you have to do, then build the traits to fulfill that goal. You have to be specific about it. I've covered this in the January edition. Have a SMT goal. There's normally SMART goals, but the A and the R in SMART goal, a lot of people tend to contest over. A SMT goal means specific, measurable, and time-targeted. Specific saying, like if you want to say, I want to earn more money, I could just give you $1 and say, okay, now get out of my face. But if you say, I want to earn X amount of money by X time doing such and such, then you have something that's specific, measurable, and time-targeted. And if it's time-targeted, then you get that sense of urgency to actually get you to follow through. If it's specific, then you know what you're going for. And measurable, if it's measurable, then that means you can record what's going on, and you can tell if you're getting closer to your target or further away from your target. And once you're specific, then you just got to ask, well, who's done this before? Because everything under the sun has been done before. The question is, can they help you out? And many of them are very humble. They've written guides about this. They'll even talk to you one-on-one in most cases. But most of the time, you can find what's known as a model. Someone who can tell you the exact traits and strategies whenever you need to accomplish the goal that you're going after. If you're poor and want to make money, you look at someone who's rich and started out poor and ask, what did they do differently? If you want to lose weight and you find someone else who started out fat and lost a lot of weight, you start asking them questions or read their guides. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's already been strategies for virtually everything you want to accomplish out there. People ask me, Spastic, how come you've made all this neat Walfus stuff? Like, how come you're lucky and I'm not? And I keep trying to tell people in vain, I'm not lucky, I just did some certain things differently. But then they don't listen and they wonder why they don't get ahead. And that's the thing I really want to emphasize, is that a lot of these people that you think are lucky or special aren't lucky or special at all. They just did some things differently. So if you look at any great people in history, you'll find that there was a certain number of things they did, and you can repeat the things that they did. And granted, you're going to run into a lot of failures and hardships and heartbreak and all that stuff all on your way there, but there's a saying that says that your capacity to feel great is also in direct proportion to your capacity to experience pain. So if you want to remain numb for the rest of your life, I got some good news. You can avoid pain for the rest of your life, but at the same time, you're going to also avoid pleasure for the rest of your life, because virtually everything in life requires risks. Because anybody can work on a story project and have their computer crash, or somebody could try to start up a business and go bankrupt, or somebody could try to lose weight then seriously damage their health. Any of that kind of stuff can happen. But if we gave into fear 24/7, then we'd be locked in our houses doing literally nothing. If we did that as a society, we would still be living in caves. We probably wouldn't even have invented fire, because fire is pretty dangerous. So once you're specific about what you want, and you can find someone who's given you a strategy, or even you can make your own path, you still have to build the traits to get what you want. That separates a lot of people who dream big from the people who actually follow through, is that they'll actually start building themselves. I'll tell you right now that where you are in life right now is the sum of the character traits and values that you've built over time. I know a lot of depressed people, I used to be depressed myself, that would constantly build the habits and traits of feeling sorry for yourself, or complaining about how life isn't fair, or noticing the bad in the world or the bad in people. And as a result, these people feel miserable and they don't go very far in life, and if they do, they're always paranoid. And the jobs they pick, the clothes they wear, the people they hang out with is a direct sum of every single choice that they've made. And if you look at the successes in life, you look at the traits they've built of self-discipline, of integrity, of ethics, of kindness, of goodness, of always trying to top their previous efforts, of always striving to grow, to do more, to be more. They are where they are because of the sum of their traits and their practices and their habits. So you got to ask, if you look at where you are in life right now, you have to ask yourself, well, what can I start doing now to change my course of direction, where I'm going in life? Because even if you did screw up a lot in the past, you can still change where you are right now. In fact, there are tons of people out there who've been strung out on drugs and homeless and jobless, but over time they realized, wait a minute, my life sucks. I need to change it. And despite their current lot in life being the sum of everything they did previously, they took a set of new actions where they got off of drugs, they found the job, they got the money, they got the home, they changed their life. And because of some of the new actions they had, they built themselves a new life. So if you're not where you want to be right now, look at what you think the goal will bring you is a big tip. Like if you say, there's a lot of lonely people out there that say, I wish I had a girlfriend/boyfriend so I could be unconditionally loved. And then you look at them, they're shy and they're quiet. They never talk to people. They have people are only going to take advantage of you mindset. And the reality is they don't want the unconditional love as much as they need to be unconditionally loving back. They need to be nicer back. They need to be kinder back. Or look at the people that say, I want tons of money so I can have more freedom in life. And chances are, it swings both ways. Either the person is too stringent, they have a tight schedule, they always want people to tell them what they want to do, and that's the reason for their failure. Or they want more freedom in life because they don't want to work. Like you look at their life, they're like, I just want more freedom, and every single day they're playing games or watching videos. They want to do whatever they want except the thing that's going to earn them the success that they really need. In fact, that's the big thing about stories. You have a character who has a conscious desire and an unconscious desire. The conscious desire is the thing they think they need, when the unconscious desire is really the big trait they need that can solve everything, but they ignore it until the very last minutes, often usually during the climax or the crisis, if you're familiar with that kind of story structure, where the character has to choose between the old way of life and a new way of life. And depending on the context of the story, they choose right or they choose wrong, and it can lead to a tragedy or it can lead to a triumphant example. So chances are maybe the thing that you might be going after for this edition of Best Year Ever is not exactly a goal itself, but maybe you need to build a new trait. Like I will tell you, the last month I've been trying to build the trait of self-discipline, time management, so I can fulfill all the other goals, because it's kind of difficult, understatement of the century, to fulfill a goal if you don't have the capacity to follow through on it. So look at your goal and ask, well, what kind of character trait do I need to fulfill that goal? And then build the trait. So let's see. Where are we right now? I have this little outline here, kind of impromptu. I actually just made this an hour ago, so it's still fresh. So once you have the specifics, you know who's done this before, and of course you build the traits, do the goal. There's this guy, Jim Rohn. He's trained virtually every self-help speaker. He actually kind of started this as legit business, who had this saying, anything that you can do is easy. If you can literally do it right now, then it's easy. But what's also easy to do is also easy not to do. And if people could just do the things that people are more tempted not to do, then more people would be more successful, if I worded that right. The idea is that if you could do it, and you should do it, then do it. That's the recipe for success. If you can do it and you should do it, if that's going to get you closer to your goal, then do it. If you can do it and you should do it, but you don't do it, that's called a recipe for disaster. In a year, you'll look at that goal and be like, why am I not closer to this? Because you could have done it and you should have done it, but you didn't do it. And so you're still weighing the same weight you were last year. You were still in the same job you had last year, still talking to the same people, still having the same ideas, still having the same complaints, because you could have done it and you should have done it, but you didn't do it. Between all the dreamers in the world and all the workers in the world, there are more workers that get ahead in life than the dreamers. Because there's millions and millions of people who dream big but never go anywhere because, well, they just dream and never work to make it come true. Like, if we were to break this down into a 4x4 grid, you have the people who don't dream and don't work, the people who only dream and don't work, the people who work and don't dream, and the people who work and dream. Here's what this would look like. The people who don't work and don't dream are your homeless of the world, the vagrants, the people who don't go anywhere in life. They want life handed to them on a silver platter, but they don't want to give anything back. And naturally, these people live miserable, frustrated lives, wondering, well, why can't I be successful? Well, maybe it's because you don't do anything to contribute back to society. Then you have the people who only dream in life, but then they don't work. Now, these people are considered Renaissance men among their friends, but of course, they're really squandering their talents. They have all these great ideas, but unless they partner themselves with a worker, they can't get very far. Now, I've been in this situation many a time myself, so I can tell you that it's a rather sad thing to have tons of talent and very little output. But I've been increasing that as much as I can within the last several years, and it's actually starting to materialize in the last couple of weeks. But there's also more famous examples like Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Nikola Tesla, like, his strength was in the, I'd say, in the dreaming category. He had tons of ideas for earthquake machines, like all sorts of electrical inventions, but Thomas Edison was the worker. He got tons of work done, and when he partnered with Tesla, his progress skyrocketed. And when Tesla said, you know what, I'm going to make some work for myself, Edison's like, nuh-uh, and The Oatmeal, this webcomic guy, made a really spiffy comic series about Edison and Tesla, where he calls Thomas Edison a douchebag. But the sad thing is, who gets all the quotes and all the credit throughout history? Nikola Tesla or Thomas Edison?
Mr. Edison guy.
Okay, Cherno Lover 9, can you tell me who is Thomas Edison and what did he invent?
Can you also... Okay, two things. One, can you just refer to me as Cherno or CL? And two, he invented the light bulb.
In what year?
1492.
Well, that was Cherno's answer, but another thing I should mention is that another thing about dreamers and workers. Dreamers love to cite the ideas of the workers, but never actually know what they mean or think for themselves. Workers tend to be very independent, while dreamers, unless they actually start working for themselves, tend to only repeat the other people's ideas. But then you have the people who are both workers and dreamers. People who actually have their own original ideas and people actually work towards them. Ideally, if you come to Best Year Ever, chances are that you have your own idea and you want to work towards them. These are your Walt Disneys of the world, your Martin Luther Kings, your Buddhas, Jesuses, Gandhis, religious leaders, all the famous artists and actors and directors and writers and political activists and business makers and you name it. These people have they dreamed big and they worked big. Like, if you look at any success in history, like, you only see the 5% of success. Like, here you see the if anyone is inspired by Best Year Ever, they see the 5% of the show that goes in, but not the 95% of practicing speaking skills, getting up early or staying up late to write outlines or research, all the hard work stuff.
Okay, can I say one thing?
Yes, Flub?
Well, it's just, personally, I've had these big ambitions, and I've tried to do them, but I'm in college and I'm double majoring, and I don't have the energy for it.
Well, I was about to get to whypower in a second, but let's see. Are you focusing 100% of your effort on your college work?
No, because I'm often stuck in limbo where I'm too tired to work, but not tired enough to go to bed.
All right, then what do you do in the meantime?
Fuck around.
And that's what I'm getting at. If you have, back when I was in school, my ideal was after class every day, I would not go home until I completed all of my homework, until I've completed all my papers, and until I've studied completely. And as a result, I had tons of time left over to mess around, to make my Walfus stuff back when I was starting out. That's when I was at my peak, when I was making Aosagi Tribute Show weekly, when I was making Toho Sketches Utsu Edition in a week. So if you can get the energy to fuck around, you can definitely get the energy to get your work done. It's mainly the matter of the whypower that we're about to get to. Let's see, I think it's on my list. Where did I put whypower? Actually, it seems to be at the end of this, so I'll just say this right now, that if you have a strong enough why as to why you're doing something, then you simply will follow through on it. Like me, I wanted to be a straight A student, and I've never been a straight A student up until that point. So I knew that if I was going to be a straight A student, I would have to study harder than I've ever done in my history. Not just study harder for my own standards, but by anyone else's standards. So while everyone else was resting and playing around, I worked. But it wasn't grueling. It wasn't like, I have to do this work. It was like, no, I'm going to kick ass. And as a result, I did kick ass. Oh yes, and Ustreamer32351 says you can also count some truly evil people in the history that got stuff done. Like a classic example is Hitler.
Godwin.
It's Godwin's law, but, if, you want to bring up any classical example of villainy in history, it's Hitler. He, every single day, he studied political philosophy, and he would campaign himself and do whatever he could to, expand his influence. And as a result, he ended up, first, metaphorically taking over Germany throughout Germany, Austria, that region. I'm sorry, my history's kind of messed up at the moment. And then he literally took over most of Europe after that. But what was that, Flub?
Sorry, it's just, I know what you mean, but according to, apparently Hitler was pretty lazy as a leader. He spent most of his time, doing shit that was unrelated to running a country.
Well, yeah, he had subordinates. He got tons of people to do work for him, and that's part of the whole leadership concept, is know the one thing you can do that gets everyone else to get all that stuff done.
Oh, nope, because Hitler also emphasizes more that, I must be the one to make all the big decisions.
Well, that too. There's a lot more that meets the eye to that whole thing. But let's see. There's also serial killers throughout history. You look at Charles Manson or
Jack the Ripper? Was he real?
Yeah.
If you look at people like Charles Manson,
who he was
always out there influencing, always doing his best to basically brainwash the masses. And as a result, he ended up getting away with tons of stuff until finally going to jail. And people are like, well, why couldn't they stop him? Because he was doing far more than people could stop him. If you look at any person who's done evil in the world, and you ask why didn't anyone stop them, it's because they did more than anyone could stop them with. If that makes any sense. Their work ethic was people say it was their influence. No, it was their work ethic that made them dangerous. So let's see, where are we? Oh yes. But in order to get any of these goals done, you need some level of self-discipline. The ability to, how to describe self-discipline? Just know what you should do, and then do it. But as I said, there's a lot of people out there that know what they should do, but they have no energy to do it. They think, well, I'd love to do it, but I don't have the energy for it, but I do have the energy to do everything else. Whereas self-discipline says, well, this would be fun, but it wouldn't move me any closer to my goal, and as a result, they don't do. They decide, you know what? I'm going to procrastinate on the YouTube videos. I'm going to procrastinate on the video games. I'm going to procrastinate on all the fun things and all the funny things, and so they decide work is more pleasurable than just screwing around. So if you can build that trait to put first things first, the trait to do work instead of doing things that screw around, the trait that says, if it doesn't have anything to do with my goal, I'm not going to do it. If you can build that trait, then that unlocks pretty much everything else. And then we have the idea of how goals are progressive. I'm putting up a little graphic on the video here. And this little graphic has many names. Darren Hardy, the guy who runs Success Magazine, calls it the compound effect. He wrote a neat book on it. Jeff Olson, another success writer, calls it the slight edge. Let's see, it's also known as the law of reaping and sowing. There's tons of different things to call this, but the idea is this. A series of positive actions have little payoff at first, but have great rewards in time. And a series of negative actions have little to no punishment at first, but lead to self-destruction in time. Like, if anyone's put off a project for just a day, and it was due in a week, there's no punishment for it. Anyone can skip a day on a project, or if you got done a day early on the project, it doesn't seem that very rewarding. But as time goes on and the deadline goes from 6 days away to just 1 day away, and you still haven't done the project, now you have to scurry like crazy to get that thing done. Whereas the person who's already done it now doesn't even have to worry about it.
Some people actually put it off till the day it's due.
Anyway.
I'm just speaking what I know.
But what does it have to do with the subject matter?
I don't know that they really don't. They really put it off that far.
All right, let's see. Another great example, building a trait. Let's say that you wanted to build self-discipline, but let's think about this. Okay, if you build self-discipline for a day, how much, you probably won't have that much self-discipline on day one, right? Because it's new.
Correct.
It's unnatural.
Like a new pair of shoes.
All right, Cherno, could you please tell us a trait that you've built over time that was hard to do at first, but then got easier, since you seem to have so much experience over this? And by the way, you are being recorded, so please enlighten us of your experience on this.
Can you repeat the question?
Well, I'll say this. Back in the early days when I was still depressed, it was extremely, I'll say this. The depression I got was because I never grew myself in life. And as a result, if you look at the bottom of the graph, I was slowly heading towards self-destruction because I wasn't growing, and as a result, I wasn't getting any progress done in life. I didn't have any accomplishments. I was lonely, depressed, etc., etc. And that's an example of not taking action over time slowly destroys you. But when I first started doing this whole goal setting, value building, everything to get myself out of that place, at first I was still suffering a little bit of depression, still suffering a little bit of anxiety. And even when I started talking to people, I still felt awkward and clumsy, but with each new action I took, I got better and better and better until finally, I completely got rid of my shy handle and I consider myself a decent public speaker. The other week I actually got to speak at an anime convention as kind of an impromptu guest spot, but I was able to handle it with confidence because if you look at the beginning of the graph, I had no experience. If you look at the end of the graph, I had tons of experience. But it didn't just happen overnight. You just don't automatically decide, I'm going to be a public speaker. No, you have to constantly practice the skills that go into public speaking. You have to constantly focus on your voice and focus on empathy for the audience and figuring out what should I say next, how should I say it next. And meanwhile, there's
Yeah.
people who want to be public speakers, but they don't build it, and they stay stuck.
Yeah, I was comparing the uncomfortableness of that to to a new pair of shoes. Like, you remember when you first bought your shoes?
Cherno, how much do you know about changing yourself for the better?
What I'm saying right now.
All right, but remember, the whole you know how earlier I mentioned about models, someone who's done this before. And one warning I give to people with models is do not model someone who's not accomplished the thing that you want to accomplish. So, what are your credentials?
What?
Anyway, we're kind of wasting time here. I'm mainly, let's see. In fact, I've actually lost my place now.
Sorry.
So let's see. But yes, goals are progressive. Success and failure are both incremental. There are no rewards or payoffs immediately. If you continually grow yourself, then you'll get all the success, you'll get all the rewards, etc., etc. And if you continue to neglect yourself, if you continue not to learn, if you continue not to do anything, if you continue to basically goof around when you know that you should do something, then as a result, you grow worse and worse, and things might seem the same at first, but then in time, like I know there's some people who are still in school that really only just do schoolwork because the school asks them to. Like I used to be one of those students. Until I started getting older and realized, oh crap, I really need to learn this stuff for myself because it's my life, it's my knowledge, it's going to be my goals and jobs in the future, and if I don't take care of myself, then I'm not going to be able to accomplish those things. And I consider myself lucky that I was able to make that jump from from that mindset of, oh, I don't have to think for myself, to, oh crap, I really do need to think for myself. And again, each action you take gets you closer and closer, even if the action fails. Because there are some people out there, they're like, well, I'd love to take action, but I could fail. Well, here's the good news. There is no such thing as failure. Well, except not taking action, only feedback. If you decide to take up public speaking and you screw up royally, guess what? You didn't fail as a public speaker, you just learned how not to speak publicly. If you talk to a person and you come off as arrogant or rude, you didn't fail, you just learned how to come off as a rude or arrogant person so you don't have to do that mistake again. There's this great book that I first read called The Confidence Course that has these things called slip mistakes and rip mistakes. Slip mistakes are lapses in consciousness and perception. It's basically where you make a mistake by taking action and the action was the wrong choice. But the good news about slip mistakes is that they give you experience, and as a result, you get closer to your goal. But there's a thing called rip mistakes. And I forgot what the RIP stands for, but the idea is you don't learn the lesson. You say, oh, I messed up. It's not meant to be. Oh, I wish I could have done it again. But if you do that, it's like, then you can't learn from the mistake. And if you keep doing that, then as a result, you don't learn anything and you never progress. So if you can learn from your mistakes and fail often, then you'll get as many lessons as you need to progress forward.
So that's basically what the saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, basically
No,
means.
that has nothing to do with that, actually.
It's a saying that you can't make process without making a few mistakes, dude.
All right, then give us an example of times that you failed that have led you to learning something valuable.
Can I use a gaming example?
Nope. How about this? Siege, are you there?
Yes.
Could you give me an example of when you first started animating and the worst mistake that you probably made?
Alright, this was when I first started doing stop motion. My first film, there were a number of frames where my hand was visible in the shot, and this was because I had given one of my siblings the task of pressing the capture button. And I suppose what I gathered from that was to become more reliant upon, or let me articulate this. I learned how to do things for myself is the best way I can articulate that at this moment.
All right, self-reliance, right?
Yes.
All right, and there you go. That's one example right there. In fact, classic. It was one of the classic slip mistakes. And since you learned from it, now you know, right?
Yes.
And there you go. That's one example of how the difference between a mistake of perception versus a mistake of not learning anything. Now, the more experience you get in that goal, the faster you go. And the more you focus on it, the more progress you'll make towards that goal. Because if you just set the goal and not do anything about it, then you'll make zero progress. But if you set the goal and decide to get daily progress, then you will get progress. Last couple of weeks, I've been getting more progress done on Void Spawn because I made it my must before I do anything else to get at least 2,000 words done. And as a result, I've been getting more progress in the last couple of days than I had previously. Another thing about Void Spawn is I want to get it done by May. Now, an interesting thing happens with National Novel Writing Month is that you have 1 month to finish a 50,000 word novel. And a lot of people tend to get that 50,000 word novel done because they have a specific, measurable, time-targeted deadline. 50,000 words, a novel, in 30 days. But once that 30 days is over, people tend to not edit their stories. They stop working on them. And what could be published as a book that they can make a passive income on just gathers dust. But if they would just use the same techniques that they learned in National Novel Writing Month to continue their works, then there would be a lot more novelists out there. They should probably have National Novel Writing Month for November and then have like a National Editing Month for December, and then chances are maybe a National Publishing Month in January, and before you know it, you'd have a crap load more books in the market. Another thing about goal setting is that you have to, the more time you spend on it, the faster you will go. Like if somebody practices public speaking once a week versus 7 times a week, then that person who practices 7 times a week is going to get 7 times the experience. Or let's say somebody decides they're going to, jog 15 minutes a day when the average populace barely jogs 15 minutes a week. And as a result, they get 3 times the experience, 3 times the aerobic capacity, 3 times the endurance, because they practice 3 times more than anyone else. If it becomes a must, as we'll discuss later, then you will make daily progress. If you just, like I said, I will not do anything else before I get those 2,000 words of Void Spawn done. And as a result, I will make more progress on my story than somebody else who decides, I'll do it when I feel like it. But if you just do things when you feel like it, then you're not going to get much progress done. And again, that's why the why power is so important. If you know the reasons why you want to get that goal done, either you're inspired to do more, to be great or do great or see greatness, or whether you're desperate to get away from bad circumstances, once you have that why, then you'll figure out the how. Another thing I should have mentioned, well, I didn't know last time, but now I know this time, how to make it a lot more easier for you. The less goals that you focus on, and with more intensity, the faster you will go. If you focus on 3 goals to the exclusion of everything else, then you will go faster than if you have 5 goals. And if you have 1 goal, then you'll be more focused than if you had 3 goals. I was at the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster event a few weeks ago in Dallas with Darren Hardy, as I mentioned earlier, the Success Magazine guy. And he talks about how Apple got its success when they started studying Pixar. Pixar was able to, Pixar only made one film a year while most studios made several films a year. But Pixar's goal was, how can we make the best movie possible every single year? As a result, they made movies like Toy Story and Finding Nemo and Monsters, Inc. and Cars. And every time they focused on making just one really, really, really good movie, they got more progress done when they started releasing multiple movies a year. And when they started releasing multiple movies a year, we got things like Cars 2, Planes, what else? But then Apple decided they would do the same strategy. They decided to make their MacBook, and it was just one laptop, but it outperformed every single laptop in the marketplace for a while. And then they made the iPod. There were all these MP3 players, but all Apple had to do was release one iPod, and bam, it changed the marketplace. Then they made the iPad. There were tablets at the time, but then, bam, iPad came out, and the whole market exploded. Then they released their Apple stores, and everyone was copying that. They have Windows stores and Android stores, but their big ticket to success was they only had to do one thing right. And look at all the different PCs out there. You'll notice, I'm a PC guy myself, but from a marketing standpoint, all Apple had to do was just release one good product every couple of years, and that's why they're so popular despite being, only having one thing. If that makes any sense. And having one goal also means being exclusionary to everything else. It's like I mentioned earlier. It's if your goal is to be a straight A student, then you are going to say no to games and time wasters and browsing the internet and screwing around. If your goal is to write certain things or animate certain things or make a certain amount of money or get the right job or whatever it is, then you are going to say no to anything that has nothing to do with that goal. I remember when I was first starting to lose weight, I knew it was easy for me to say no then because that was going to be my big goal at the time. I would say no to the ultra fried foods, no to the 1,000-calorie burgers, no to everything else because I knew my goal was to lose a crap ton of weight. I was going to say no to just staying in the mornings. I would go out and jog before anything else. And then it becomes easy after a while. So it's not just saying yes to the goal that you got to remember, it's also saying no to the things that do not serve the goal. And I'm trying to think of ways to apply this to building values. If you want to learn self-discipline, then that's probably going to be the biggest thing to learn this trait. And that you have to learn to say no to the things that won't build self-discipline. Because if you want to read up on self-discipline, you will have to say no to playing games or browsing videos or doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't serve you. But then we come to this interesting concept that I've learned recently. I've been doing the 100-day challenge with, what's his face? I think his first name's Gary. Shoot, I forgot the name of the dude. It's, hold on a second. What is his name? I think it's Gary Ryan Blair.
Who?
Let's see. You wouldn't know him.
I don't know much people.
Yeah, Gary Ryan Blair. He is also known as the Goals Guy, and he has this thing called the 100-Day Challenge, which is a giant workshop on time management and productivity. And he talks about this idea called the total cost of ownership. Because when you buy a free puppy, in fact, I'm going to get Cherno to answer this question because I absolutely know he's going to say free. If you buy a free puppy, how much does it cost?
Nothing?
And you would think that, but to the rest of us, how much does a free puppy cost?
A lot. You gotta feed it every damn day.
Of course.
Yep, feed it, get dog get those little beds that you get for dogs, flea shampoo, you gotta take it to the vet. A free puppy is not free. Or if we buy a house, if the house costs $150,000, it doesn't really cost $150,000. You have to also pay for the utilities, water, electricity, the cable, insurance. You got to join a homeowners association. But when we think of goals, we think, well, all I have to do is this, that, and the other, and I'll get everyone to like me. Or I'll just have to do this, that, and the other, and then I'll become famous. But then they forget this other thing called the possession cost. The acquisition cost is what most people focus on, and they think, what must I do to get the goal? But they forget the possession cost, which is what must I do to keep the goal? Because anybody can do the acquisition cost. In fact, there's a lot of people who only focus on the acquisition cost. Like, as an admin, I know tons and tons of people who are like, please unban me, I'll do this, that, the other. And I've experienced this for several years now, where people are like, I can do this, I can change. I know I've been a rotten little bastard. And they actually do change for the meantime, and that means they fulfilled the acquisition cost. The problem is, they did not fulfill the possession cost. Because when they actually get back into the group, it doesn't matter if it's the Waffle Station Wagon or any internet group, so if you're watching this as one of your goals to get unbanned from the group, I suggest you listen closely. They forget that once they get into the group, they have to keep following the rules. They have to keep being a good person. They have to keep doing the things they did to get back into the group. But most of the time, they just get back in the group and they do the same crap over and over again. If they were booted out for being mean, they'll be nice to get back into the group, the acquisition cost, but then they'll be mean and they can't keep it, the possession cost. And that's the problem with a lot of goals. People are like, I want a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they'll learn all these pickup tactics, they'll learn how to flirt with people, and they finally get the boyfriend or girlfriend. And it's like, yay, I have the boyfriend and girlfriend, and just totally neglect them, ignore them, or they might even get into fights with them, and it's like, I didn't sign up for this. And thus, they lose the person, and then they likely end up in the same cycle again because they didn't get the possession cost. I know a lot of people who want to be famous, but the problem is, people who want to be famous, they also tend to forget that once you're famous, you're in the public eye. You don't get privacy anymore. And not just that, people are going to make up things about you that aren't even true. They'll think, well, maybe you must have cheated or stolen something. I'm not going to trust that guy anymore. You're going to have to deal with a lot of people not trusting you anymore. So that's one big thing you got to remember with your goals. It's, are you willing to pay the prices? Now, ideally, you want a goal that has a high acquisition cost so you can grow yourself, but a low possession cost. Preferably, it's a goal that you need the traits to, like, the same traits that go into acquiring it are also the same traits that go into possessing it. Like, you want a goal that requires both self-discipline to acquire it, but also self-discipline to possess it. And as a result, you are able to acquire the goal, but also keep the goal. So, my hope is that as you're watching this video, you're taking notes, because I do not believe in passive video watching. Like, even if I'm reading a book, I will have a notebook by my side, and I will write down every idea that comes up. In fact, if you weren't taking notes while watching this video, I suggest you start from the beginning and pull out Notepad or OpenOffice, whatever it is program you have, and start writing notes. And you might say, well, Spastic, that might take a little extra time. Do it anyway. You'll get the extra insights. Just, if an idea pops out, don't think, I can remember that. No, like, stare at the idea. Like, when you type out something, your brain has to process it twice. Well, at least that's kind of the pop psychology explanation, but the idea is that you'll think more about it by writing it down than just passively listening to my voice. So, when you're goal setting, I want you to understand, one, who must I become to get the thing I want? Because it's not just what must I do. Certain people do certain things. You have to have certain traits to, like, wake up every morning and fulfill the goal. You must have certain traits to exclude everything else of the time wasters to accomplish that goal. And then, more importantly, who must I become to keep the thing I want? Because anybody can acquire a goal, but most people lose that goal because they don't understand the possession cost. Because anybody can get the goal through the acquisition cost, but they can't exactly keep it. And finally, we get to the actual goal setting part of the goal setting workshop. I understand this one was a little shorter than the last one, but luckily this is more concise, and as this best year ever thing goes on, I'm going to have more concise, quicker, faster ways for you people to set goals. So, we're going to do a thing called the 1-3-5 strategy. Again, this is another thing from the 100-day challenge, but it turns out there's like other people who do this too. And this is much simpler than the system I had last time, where you pick out, where you have the who, the what, the why, the where, and all those different variables. But the problem with that system is it might take a little extra time, so if you have more of the commitments, then you can do that system. But this is probably going to be much simpler, much easier. And here's how it works. Again, have a notepad, whatever your writing materials are down. And here's what I want you to do. Pick one goal. That's why it's called 1-3-5. The 1 is the goal. Just pick one goal that's specific, measurable, and time-targeted, and write it down. I will give you just a moment to think of just one goal. If you have more than one goal, then do it later. But again, if you have just one big goal that you can focus on, then you are going to focus on it with more intensity than if you have 3 goals, and you'll have more intensity than if you focus on 5 goals. But for now, just pick one goal, and once you master this, you can pick more goals later. Just pick one goal. Specific. If you want to lose weight, just don't say, I want to lose weight. Chop your arm off. You lose 50 pounds easy. No, like, I want to lose 35 pounds, or I want to weigh 170, whatever it is. Or maybe 130, like 170 was my target. I want to make such and such amount of money doing such and such. Whatever it is, pick the goal. And by when. Because you have by when, then you'll have that sense of urgency. You look at that time close again, it's like, oh crap, that's coming near. And people are like, well, I don't need a sense of urgency. Okay, here's some urgency for you. The average lifespan worldwide is about 71 years. Whether you like it or not, there is a deadline. Sad fact is that everyone dies, but not everyone truly lives. So better to die while you're alive than die when you're dead. So, once you have that one goal figured out, something that's specific, measurable, and of course time-targeted, so you can actually get work done, pick the 3 whys why you must fulfill that goal. And if you have more than 3 whys, then I suggest you write them down. Preferably you want quality over quantity here, but if you have quality and quantity, then that's really going to help you. If you don't have a strong enough why behind your goal, or strong enough whys multiple, then it might be hard to fulfill that goal. I will tell you this, one of my personal strategies for success, if I really want to follow through on something, is that I will write a giant essay of why I should follow through on that goal. If I don't have enough time, then I'll just pick like several quality whys, but I find that if I write like 500 to 1,000 words on why I should follow through on something, I find myself following through on the thing the next minute. So I'll give you guys just a few more moments to write down your whys. But yeah, a few more hints on that. Maybe you have somebody you want to do this goal for. Like you want to make your friends proud, your family proud, or even yourself proud. Like I'm fine with a little like everyone's selfish to a degree because we need to survive. It's only when we're selfish to the expense of other people does it really hurt. So it's okay to take care of yourself. So if you want to say, I want to do this for myself, write that down if that's really what empowers you. Or maybe it's a cause that you fight for. Or maybe you believe in something, or you stand against something. If you stand for justice and peace and stand against tyranny and hatred, that's the reason why you do that thing. Write that down. Or maybe you do it because you think you do a more elegant job, or maybe it's like you just enjoy the work as it is. Or maybe you're willing to put up, as I said earlier, of that 95% for the 5%. And all these things I should mention are also from Darren Hardy. It's going to be having a new book coming out pretty soon, Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, that covers all of this, I believe. But yes, once you got your goal and your whys, now pick 5 actions you can do daily, or 5 actions you can do and then replace the list later that will move you closer towards that goal. You can also make these specific, time-targeted, measurable. But the idea is that you can do these things daily, and if one doesn't work, you can do the others. Or if you can't do one of them, you can do another one. And you can replace the list as it goes on. But the idea is that you keep taking these actions daily. When you can do it and you should do it, then you do it. That's when the goal starts coming to life. Where the small series of actions slowly builds and builds and builds. And if we go back to that graph, it leads to the massive success over time. Maybe it's someone you need to contact, a call you need to make. Like right now, I'm researching voice acting, and the next thing on my list is to make a demo CD. But I'm also thinking of maybe actually contacting a vocal coach, which ought to be fun. And right now, because I've been taking those actions daily, I've gotten further on that than the people who simply go to anime conventions going, man, I wish I could voice act. Well, you can dream, but then there's those who do. Or those who want to lose weight. Sometimes you get locked into, oh, I need to go to a gym. No, you don't need to go to a gym. Just run every morning or walk every morning. I started out walking every morning. And if I couldn't walk because the weather was terrible, I did 100 jumping jacks in the morning. Or just do 50 jumping jacks in the morning. Or if you can't do that, maybe, there's other things. There's bike riding, pedal bikes, jog in place. If you have some money, maybe go indoor skydiving. That's a workout. I know not a lot of people have the money or the ability to do that, but I'm saying there's like tons of ways you can do it. Other ways to make passive incomes, not passive incomes, but there are extra ways to get money, include mowing lawns, becoming a clown. Clowns are popular, I'll tell you that. What else? There's even a book called like the 50 Strangest Ways to Make Money. I forgot what it's called, but there's like millions of opportunities out there. Or if it's a new skill you want to learn.
Be a street performer.
Or if it's a new skill you'd like to learn. I remember there was a great book, Neil Strauss, The Rules of the Game, which is it's supposed to be marketed as a pickup guide, but really it's a social skills guide and has tons of exercises. And one of the exercises that I did was go out, compliment 5 people, and go out, notice eye colors, go out, ask for directions, and all these different ways that every single day you can go out and talk to people and get conversations going. And if when one exercise didn't work, you could do another one. You do another one until you were able to master all of them. And they kept growing in size and scope so that every single time you did them, then you would get better and better at it. And finally, once you have your 1 goal, your 3 whys, and your 5 actions, here's a little bonus. Pick 3 to 5 behaviors or traits that you must adopt to fulfill all of these. Again, who must you become to get and do the things you'd like to do? Because if your goal was to go out and talk to like 5 people a day, 5 random strangers a day, proactivity is one of the traits that you're going to need. And of course, you'll not be very proactive at first, but when you start actually going out, you build that proactivity. Or you build that risk-taking skill. You'll build that confidence. You will build all of these things until one day you can go out and strike up a conversation with virtually anyone. And I will tell you that this is a very important skill. It's gotten me into a lot of places. It's gotten me to influence a lot of people. It's very practical. You'll need it on the job. You'll need it off the job. And lucky, this thing's only going to be an hour long. So it's like 3 times shorter than the last one. Let's see, Combaticon, I'm going to upload this later, but I'm going to also post this in the description too. And there's a lot more techniques that I've left out in this edition of Best Year Ever, but I'm going to cover them in the March edition. My plan is I'm going to keep releasing these videos with a whole series of new strategies and ideas and tools. I don't like using the word tools, but it's appropriate here because there's different ways to plan your goals. In the first one, I talked about the first strategy I had, which is kind of a hybrid of a bunch of ones. And now today I have the 100-day challenge style strategy, and next week I'm probably going to go Brian Tracy style or Darren Hardy style. There's like all these different ways to plan plan your goals, but the idea is which one is the one right for you. It's all these different techniques, but in the end, if it gets the job done, then that's the one that you're probably likely going to use. Anyway, this has been the, let's see. If you haven't done the exercise yet, please, I implore you, get the thing done. And I'll hopefully hear from your success in the near future. So this has been Spastique with Best Year Ever 2015 February edition, and I will see you again in March.